Hello everyone, welcome back to Age of Nagash, which is a channel dedicated to Age of Sigmar, and in this video we're going to be doing how to play Age of Sigmar on the tabletop part 2. So we're going to be chucking a few extra things in this video compared to part 1, such as an objective. We're also going to have a hero for each side, and that is going to involve things as spells and command abilities, as we'll be doing a lot in the hero phase. We're also going to have an endless spell in there, just so you guys can see what that's like on the tabletop. Now, if you guys are feeling like, oh, I'm still not too sure how all that sort of stuff works, please check my earlier videos. And in this video, because we've already done part 1, what was one unit versus another unit, we may be skipping things like the movement phase and then returning to the video just so I can move it and stuff off camera so it's not too shaky. What I'd also like to say is that if you're an experienced Age of Sigmar player, like I said for part 1 of how to play Age of Sigmar, this video isn't going to be for you because we are going to take things very slow, but this is still going to be a step up from part 1 so we can slowly learn the game. Okay, so before we get started, let us have a look at the units that are going to be involved. So now that you know what units involved, it's going to be the Death versus the Slaves of Darkness. Remember, like I've been doing for the early parts of this series, there are going to be no points involved in this game. It's going to be quite simple, but unlike last time where it was just one unit versus another unit in a death match, we have got an objective here. You may be looking at it thinking, oh, it's a bit unusual looking. It's just a simple point here, which is the objective. Now, the idea of the rings is essentially we've got 3 inches from this point here and we've got 6 inches from that point there here. So it represents a diameter, it's a radius to make simply counting how many models in range of the objective easier. As in this game, you're going to need to have the most models within 3 inches of that objective, so anything within this line, to claim it at the end of your turn. So it's going to make things a lot easier for me to try and count while I'm holding the camera. I actually ordered these from the Honest Wargamer just before the lockdown, so I haven't been able to use them in any games yet, so this is the first one, so it'll be quite interesting. Now, I have already done deployment as well for both sides. The Skeletons won the roll-off with their Vampire Lord, so what that meant is they deployed first, and because there's only 2 units either side, that means that the Skeletons finish deploying first, which means they get to choose who goes first, and they certainly are going to take the first turn. So what we're going to do is go to their first turn. Now, like I've mentioned, what I want to introduce in this video are, because we've got the heroes, it'll be things like magic, or even going to have an endless spell for the death, which we have got here, which is my version of a Quicksilver Swords, just to make it look a bit more death. It's in the size and the hex race. So we're going to have spells, endless spells, and command abilities during this game. Like I say, no allegiance abilities, so no death saves or anything like that. So with all the pre-rambling aside, let us get to a death turn 1. So first things first, what Death is going to try and do is summon the Quicksilver Swords to try and do some extra damage to the Chaos, as it is good against them. Now, what I will say with endless spells, if you are confused and you don't know how they work at all and you still don't understand during this video, please go watch my endless spell video for beginners. It will definitely help you. Also, with anything else that's quite basic in Age of Sigmar that you're still not really understanding, please watch part 1 as well of the series to help you understand before you go any further. Okay, so let's crack on with it. So Quicksilver Swords cast on a 6. So we get it on a 5, which means it does not go off, unfortunately. If we did manage to cast it, the Chaos Sorcerer Lord would have been able to try and unbind it, but he or she, even how I think I've modelled her, can stand down. Right, so what we're going to do is movement. Now, what I will say is that we're going to go off camera for movement and then come back when it's done, so you guys don't have to see me move all these models. Now, we can see that these are on movement trays, and you may be thinking, do they have to be on movement trays? They don't have to be on movement trays at all. It's just literally just to make my life a bit easier. So what my plan for these guys is, I'm going to try and run them to the objective to try and claim it this turn. Now, if I can get them in range this turn, I'm going to take them off the movement trays. And the reason behind that is because they're going to get charged by these Chaos Warriors. And when they are off movement trays, it makes it easier for these guys to pile in to get the maximum attack. So just a little bit of a tip there. Now, what I will say about movement is just remember they can only move the maximum as their movement characteristic on their war scroll unless they run or have any extra ability. So for the Skeleton Warriors, it will be a 4-inch move plus their run. Because they ran means they couldn't charge the enemy in this case, and they can't move within 3 inches of the enemy. And when they finish their move, they have to all remain within 1 inch of each other. Okay, so with no further ado, let us go on to their movement. So with movement now done, the Skeletons managed to get 5 to run, so they're well on that objective. Got a lot of them on there. It's going to be hard for the Chaos Warriors to try and match that at the moment. Now you may be thinking, oh, was that a good thing to do? Because the Chaos Warriors are going to slam into them and chop a lot of the Skeletons down, as there are 5 turns or 5 battle rounds even in a game of Age of Sigmar. The Skeletons will lose that war of attrition. Now what I want to say is, like I say, on these how to play videos, not the most competitive, but I know that these Slaves of Darkness, Chaos Warriors, plus this Chaos Sorcerer Lord spell, which we'll maybe see later in the game, will make the Chaos Warriors very basically killy, and with the Chaos Sorcerer Lord ability, it can make the Chaos Warriors very, very survivable. So I thought it would be best to try and get some early points for the side of death in this game here. Now, one extra thing I want to say is that this Vampire Lord, or really I should start calling her a Vampire Lady, hasn't run because she's got a movement of 10. Now, something I'm going to try and do is charge her into these Chaos Warriors to try and maybe give Death an extra turn of scoring points if she can hold them up down there. Now, it may mean that I will suffer losing her in a turn or two, but that would mean maybe a turn of 2 of clocking on the points for the death, and it will mean that the Chaos Warriors can't charge the Skeletons in their turn. But let's see if she gets the charge. Now, I have still got that command point from earlier from this turn because she hasn't spent it yet, so I can re-roll this charge roll. So let us see what we're going to get. So we managed to get a 9. Now I'm just going to try and see how far she is from it. So let's just have a look. Is she 9? Remember, it can be 9.5. So we're just going to have a look. Yeah, that's well in. So she is going to make that charge. Now, when she charges, she is going to go on the tip here to make it as hard as possible for these Chaos Warriors to pile it in. So with that, we actually do have a combat on turn 1. So we're going to go straight to combat. So turn 1 combat, we're going to have the Vampire Lord attacking the Chaos Warriors. Now she is actually going to pile in just to make things a bit harder for the Chaos Warriors. She is going to use this 3-inch so we can see how far she can go, and she's just going to go like that. So she's still no further away from this one as she was at the start of the move. And it's just going to make it harder for these Chaos Warriors down here to go in and attack her. So looking at her profile here, as we do have her war scroll. So I'll just tilt this up so you can see it a bit better. We have the Spirit Possessed Blades and the Nightmare Hooves and Thieves. So she is mounted on one. So first things first is going to be the Spirit Possessed Blades. So we're going to have 4 attacks. And as we can see, it hits on a 3 and wounds on a 3 with -1 rend and D3 damage. So looking for 3s. So that is very good, probably the best I've actually rolled for her. She always seems to fail these. Going to wounding, that is the best she has done. Right, now for the saves for the Chaos Warriors, we're actually going to look at their War Scroll, as they do have an ability called Legion of Chaos, which is going to help them. So it says you can reroll save rolls for attacks that target this unit while it has at least 10 models, which it does for the moment. So they've got 4 saves to make, so we'll just get their dice. Again, we're going to try and keep their dice separate in this video, just to make things a bit easier so we don't muddle them up. But they've got to make these 4 saves, and they are saving on a 5 because of that -1 rend. Now, they can re-roll these, but every one they fail is going to be D3 damage. So they fail 3 of them. So we're just going to re-roll these 3. Oh, and that's another 3 they fail. So what that does mean is we're going to roll 3 of these attack dice, and it's going to be D3 damage. Now, we did talk about D3 damage when we reviewed the Vampire Lord War Scroll in the War Scroll video. So if you are confused what all that means, go check that out for sure. But if you do understand what it means, we're going to roll these 3 dice and half the results of each dice, and then that's how much damage it's going to be. So not very impressive here. So that's just that's a 1, but you may think, oh, half it, so it's half damage. No, you can't get any less than 1. So that's going to be 1 damage, another 1 damage, so 2 damage, and then this 4 gets halved, so that's become 2 as well. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to be 4 damage, which means that 2 Chaos Warriors are going to die. Now, before we take away the casualties, we still have the 2 attacks to make from the Nightmare's Hooves and Teeth. So let's see if they can do any damage. So hit on a 4. We've got 1. Next one. See if we can get a wound of a 4. Yep. So we've got a 1 save for these guys. Now, there's no rend on this, and they can reroll the save, so I'm not expecting much. So they failed the save, and then they save it on the reroll. Okay, so with that, it is just going to be 2 Chaos Warriors that have died. Now, if I were the Chaos Warriors, what I would try and do is take away enough casualties to get outside 3 inches of her. So then I can move in my next turn to charge the Skeleton Warriors and try and take that objective or do as much damage to skeletons as possible. However, that's not going to be possible because she's definitely going to be within 3 inches no matter what I do by taking away 2 casualties. So we are simply just going to take away 2 casualties from down here. So as we can see, it's now the Chaos Warriors' turn to attack, and they have piled in. So we've got 5 in there, so that's going to be 10 attacks, 3's to hit and 3's to wound, because they've got the Chaos hand weapons like we saw in the last video. So looking for 3's. So we have managed to get a few there. That's pretty good. Remember, take away the misses, which is good practice to basically make sure that you're not mistaking a few hits. So, yep, that's very good. Now, wounded on 3's. Now, do try and make sure you don't move the objective and all that sort of thing during the game. Obviously, when you've only got 1 hand, because the other hand's holding the phone, makes it a little bit harder. Right, okay, so bloody hell, that is good. Now, I think this may be our first example of a cocked dice on a house play. So, simply, this dice from a different angle looks like a different result. So what we do is usually you would say to your opponent, would you like me to re-roll that? If you generally got a good result from that, it's quite polite to re-roll it anyway. But because this is definitely cocked enough, as we call it, I will be re-rolling that to be safe. Okay, so it's a 5 anyway, so that's good. Right, so she has got a lot of saves to make. So she has actually got, my maths is right, that's going to be 7 saves. So we're going to get 7 of these red dice and see how good she is at saving. So we are going to need to get a 4 to save for her, as we can see on her war scroll. So let's see what we get. So, okay, she managed to do very good saving there. In all honesty, when I always needed her in a tournament to do well, she has let me down pretty much, apart from 1 time. And now she's doing really good. So on a house play video. So I don't understand it. But anyway, so she's taken 2 damage from those attacks, which is a little bit annoying for these Chaos Warriors here. So what this means is that it's going to be the end of the combat phase as well, as we've got nothing in a range to attack, and both things over there have attacked. Now, if we go back to her abilities for the Vampire Lord, she has actually got the Hunger. So that means at the end of any combat phase in which this model slew any enemy models, you can heal 1 wound that has been allocated to it. And as she killed 2 Chaos Warriors, she slew an enemy model. So the 2 damage she took, she is only going to take 1. So we are going to use the dice to count up for her damage here. So we are just going to put a 1 on her damage there so we can keep track. Okay, so with that, it's going to be a Battle Shock. Now, on to Battle Shock. So the Chaos Warriors lost 2 models. However, they have a Bravery of 7 and their banner gives them +1. So Bravery 8, They lost 2. The most you can roll on a dice is a 6, which is going to make an 8, which means that they wouldn't fail anyway. Now the skeleton banners I've made sure are outside of 6 inches of the Chaos Warriors, so there's no minus bravery in there. And as the Vampire Lord just took a wound and there's no models died, obviously, there's no need for a battle shot to be taken for the side of death. So that's going to be the end of a death turn 1. Now they do claim the objective and they score 1 point. So what I'm going to do is simply just use 1 dice here. Remember to try and keep track of what the dice mean, and what this one means is that death has got a 1 victory point, and that will go up as they will more than likely claim more victory points throughout the game. You can get victory point markers, which I do strongly recommend if you can find them. Right, so with that, it's going to go into Chaos turn 1. So first things first, what we want to do is we're a bit stuck over here, so we're going to try and do some magic. So this Chaos Sorcerer Lord is going to try and cast, where's the Water God? There we go. It's going to be Demonic Power. So we're going to try and cast that on our Chaos Warriors, as it will allow them to re-roll fail to hit rolls and fail to wound rolls until my next hero phase. So I very much want that. So it's going to go off on a 6. So we need to get a 6, so we get a 7. Now before we go, that's off, and then the Chaos Warriors over here get that ability. The Vampire Lord, she is still very much alive, is going to try and unbind that. So that means she rolls 2 dice and tries to beat that score of a 7. So let's see what she can get. So that's cocked again to try not to roll there, but again it is a good example of what we do. So we'll re-roll that, and that is a 5. So that spell goes off. So that means that these Chaos Warriors could actually kill her this turn. There's a good chance of that. And the last thing we're going to do for the hero phase is going to be the Chaos Sorcerer Lord ability called Oracle Vision, or Oracler, however that's pronounced, Vision. So that means that he is going to pick these Chaos Warriors here, and quite simply that is going to make them re-roll failed save rolls, and now that they've lost that 10 model count, it's really going to be useful for them to keep them alive. So what we are going to do now is go into movement, and it's a little bit tricky now, mainly because we have the Chaos Sorcerer Lord here, who is the only one who can really engage those skeletons. If we look at the attacks, it's not fantastic if we're honest. The Chaos Warriors can't engage skeletons as they're locked in combat over there. So, like I said, a bit tricky. What we're going to do is group up the Chaos Sorcerer with the Chaos Warrior unit. Okay. So the Chaos Sorcerer Lord has moved up there. So essentially the reason why she's going to go up there, it means if I can get the priority for the Chaos Warriors and they've managed to kill the Vampire Lord, the Chaos Sorcerer Lord is in range to put the spell on, and that reroll save rolls as well for when they go into combat over here. I know that the Chaos Sorcerer Lord could have gone to charge here and tag the skeleton unit, but I think this is going to be a better use for her up here. And with that, that is the end of movement. There's no charging. Obviously, like we say, no shooting in this game because there's no shooting on either side. So we're going to go straight into combat. Now we're going to go with the Chaos Warriors, of course, and they are going to make a piling move. So we'll make that piling move and then we'll go to attack. So now they're piled in, they're going to attack. They've all got in there, and it's going to be 17 attacks because 2 each, and then plus the extra one for the champion. So we're going to be hitting a freeze. Remember, re-rolling these because of the sorcerer spell. What I'm going to do is a little bit away from the action, but we are going to roll them over here just to try and prevent the dice getting popped. So we are, like I say, re-rolling. So we're going to take away the fails and re-roll them. Okay, so they did pretty well standardly. And then for the rerolls, so just 1, I believe, from what I can see, because they're hitting off freeze. Yep, that looks good. Quite a bit of dice there. Right, okay, so they are wounded on freeze as well. And like I say, re-rolling these as well. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. I believe all of these are hits as well. Just doing a quick check because I'm looking this through the camera. Yep, that's fine. So going on to the rerolls. So we've got 1 fail there, and I believe that's a 4, is it? Yeah, okay, that's fine. So these are how many saves she has got to roll. Now, like I say, I like to keep it to the red dice, but as there's quite a few dice here, this is the exact number, so I'm just going to re-roll these. Now, she's going to need to get 4s to save this, so let's see how well she does. Okay, so I think she's probably going to be dead, but she got very good rolls last time. That's what she gets. She's dead from what I can tell, because she only needs to fail 4, and she's definitely done more than that. So unfortunately, she is dead for now, but it did allow the Skeleton Warriors an extra turn of not getting damaged. Was it the best thing to do? I don't know. I just think it's a bit of fun getting a bit of fighting straight away. Okay, so with that, it's going to go into Battle Shock because the Death haven't got anything left to attack with. And the Slave Darkness suffered no casualties, so there are no need to do a Battle Shock test. So with that, we're going to go into Priority Turn 2. So far, we have got 1 victory point for the Death and 0 victory points for the Slaves to Darkness. So turn 2 priority. Now it's going to be very good for Death to get it here, as it's going to mean that their risk essentially paid off. If the Slaves to Darkness get it, it means that it's going to be pretty bad for Death because they'll be able to grind through the skeletons with probably not too much trouble and eventually win that war of attrition. So let's see what happens. So rolling for a Death first, a 4, Slaves to Darkness, a 4. Now, like we've discussed with ties before, Death went first in the last battle round, so they actually win this tie. We don't do another roll-off. So Death is definitely going to take it because it's just a guaranteed extra point for them. So we are going to go into the movement phase and we'll resume after that, as there's no hero phase. We do actually have that command point we never actually used. In hindsight, it would have been best to use it just on the Vampire Lord to give her that extra attack, but oh well, we can never predict the future. So we'll be back in a moment. So as we resume, it looks a little bit interesting now. So what we've done is we've done the movement and the charge, obviously no shooting of course. They got a 9 to charge. Now I'll take you through this little tactic I've got for Death, because I'm not going to lie, Death are in a pretty sticky situation and they have to play a little bit dirty now to try and win this after losing that Vampire Lord so quickly. So what we've done is these skeletons have moved further towards the enemy side to try and make them not get within that 3-inch range. And then we've got these skeletons down here who have in combat with this one. Now remember, this is all the same unit, so technically this is all in combat. This unit is all within 1 inch. Because there's so many models here, it almost looks like it's 2 units, but I assure you it's 1. Now the reason why I've done this is because I don't care how much damage I do to that Chaos Sorcerer Lord. That's not my business. What I do care about though is stopping the Chaos Warriors taking this objective. So this one skeleton here with the banner is actually within 3 inches of these Chaos Warrior unit here. So these Chaos Warrior unit is actually in combat. And that means that they can't, in their turn, charge over here to take the objective. And as the Death player, even if we do lose 1 casualty or a few casualties from that Chaos Sorcerer Lord, or from maybe 1 Chaos Warrior that can get in range with piling, I am just going to take the casualties from the back here, so that this will still mean that those Chaos Warriors are locked in combat. So this is a bit like, seems a bit like sneaky sort of tactics or something, but you know, it's all legal, especially when you're in a tricky situation like this. You have to think outside the box, and that's when it becomes more interesting compared to the last game. We have multiple units, so you can tie up multiple units and all that sort of thing. So yes, hopefully it will pay off for the Death rather than just bunkering down over here and hoping for the best. Okay, so with that, we are going to go into combat. We're going to go with Death first, and we literally just have that 1 skeleton over there. I'm not going to do a piling move, as there's no. I'm not here to cause damage. I'm just here to cause mayhem, really, and try and piss off the Sinesh. Right. So first things first, the skeleton player. Now the skeletons make. Where are we? So make one attack. However, as there are 20 or more in the unit, it is 2 attacks. So this one banner is going to make 2 attacks. So hitting on 4s because of the swords, absolutely nothing. You know what? I don't care. That doesn't matter. We just want to tie up the enemy. So the enemy first are going to go with this Chaos Sorcerer, who's just going to scoot past here and still be as close to that Skeleton Warrior as it was at the start, just to make it easier for these Chaos Warriors to do a bit of a piling. So we're going to go for the Chaos Sorcerer Lord attacks. Now, we did glance at them earlier, but we can see they're not very good. He does get all of them. So the first one is going to be the Chaos Sorcerer Lord Staff. So this hits on a 4. Failed. Then the sword, the Chaos Rune Blade, is going to hit on a 3 and wound on a 3. So one manages to hit and fails. So pretty weak combat there. We're then going to go with the Chaos Warriors. I'm just going to pause it just so I can make sure I pile them in right, and then we'll resume. So as we can see, we've got 2 Chaos Warriors in range. One of them is the champion, so that's going to be 5 attacks. Now remember, they are still really rolling those to hit and 2 wound rolls. So let us see what they get. I'm going to roll over here just so we have a bit more space. Okay, so we have got 3 hits straight away, and then with a reroll, we've got a other one. So that is going to be 4 hits. And going to wounding, again re-rolling, going to roll that again because like I said, it slipped out of my hand. And we've only got 1 fail, so try and get 3, we get that, so that's going to be 4 saves for the Skeleton Warriors. Now remember that this has a rend of a dash, so that means that the Crypt Shields of the Skeleton Warriors is going to give them a +1 to their save, so instead of having a save of a 6, they have a save of a 5. So let's see if they manage to save any of these. Fantastic. Managed to save 3 out of 4 on 5s. Right, so really, really good there. We are just going to take these 3 away over here. And that's absolutely fine. That's basically went as best as I hoped it could as the skeletons. And with that, that is going to take us to Battle Shock, if I remember everything right, because we've got nothing else to attack with. So that means that the only thing needs to do Battle Shock test are Skeleton Warriors. Skeleton Warriors have Bravery 10, they only lost 3. So the most you could get is a 9. It's absolutely fine. Technically, they've got Bravery 11 because there's 10 or more in that unit. And so with that, it's the end of Death's turn. Now they score an extra point, an extra victory point there for the objectives. So they are actually going to be on 2. So just going to put this 2 here. Now, usually in games, there's more than 1 objective. So it's not as certain of how controlling, victory points in the game is going to be. But because we've only got 1 in this one, and the Chaos Warriors only have 4 turns left, so they really kind of want to push the skeletons off it in this turn, if not the next one, otherwise it's going to be really hard for them to win, surprisingly. Okay, so with that, we will go on to Slaves of Darkness, turn 2. So Slaves of Darkness, turn 2. So first things first, he is going to put his ability on that, I can never pronounce right, like Oracle Vision, on to the Slaves of Darkness, so they get those rerolls to save. When I say Slaves of Darkness, I mean the Chaos Warriors. And then he is going to do his Demonic Power, which he did before to give them the rerolls to hit and to wound for the Chaos Warriors. So let's see if he gets that on a 6. Yes, he does, and there are no Vampire Lords or anything else to try and unbind it, so that automatically goes off, so that's good for the Chaos Warriors. And with that, that is going to be the end of the hero phase. We do have 2 command points for the Slaves of Darkness, but there's no need to use them yet, as it hasn't really came up. Okay, so with that, we are going to go straight into combat. So the only thing we can do is retreat. And because how I've done things here with the skeletons, it's going to make it so hard for these guys to try and retreat and regroup here and charge next turn that they're just going to grind through the skeletons and hopefully kill them quickly if they get some good rolls off. And that's going to be the same the Chaos Lord on foot, because I say Chaos Lord, Chaos Sorcerer Lord, even because it's going to just take ages to get around there to the back, so it's going to stay there as well and try and do as much damage as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attack with the Chaos Sorcerer Lord first. Now you may be thinking, why not attack with the you know, Chaos Warriors? There's, you know, the majority of them. It's just because if I do that, I'll be piling more of these into the Skeleton Warriors, so the Skeleton Warriors will be getting more attacks. Whereas if the Skeleton Warriors were to attack now, 2, maybe 3 of them will be attacking, so it's quite good to keep the model positions as they are. So we're going to go with the Chaos Sorcerer Lord. So the first attack is going to be with the staff. So hits on a 4, wounds on a 3. Oh, just unlucky on that one. And then the sword hitting on 3s. And then wounding on, just to remind myself, wounded on 3s. Yes, so that's going to be 1 save for the Skeleton Warriors. They need a 5 or 6. And that's a failed one. So the Skeleton Warriors are just going to lose this one up here. Okay, so with that, the Skeleton Warriors are then going to attack. So realistically, I don't want to pile anything in, so we're just going to have 2 attacking, and they're going to attack, yeah, all into the Chaos Sorcerer Lord. So the Skeletons attacking, we've got 2 attacks, that's it. So going into the Chaos Sorcerer Lord, we are hitting on 4s, wounded on 4, so we've got 1 save for the Sorcerer Lord to make, and the Sorcerer Lord passes it because it's got save up of 4, and it rolled a 6, so definitely smash that save, so that's absolutely fine. And then we're going to go on the Chaos Warriors, so I'm going to pause it and then resume after piling. So we have managed to get 4 of them into range to attack the Skeleton Warriors. Now, one of them is champion, so it's going to be an extra attack. So we are going to have 9 attacks here, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, and also re-rolling all of those results. So let us see what we're going to get. Okay, so removing the fails, not too bad there, only 3 fails, beauty hitting on 3s. And only 1 fail on the rerolls, that's fine. Going into the wounding, now, like I say, we are going to be re-rolling the failed wound rolls as well, remember, because of that spell that went off, and only 1 fail to re-roll, and that passes. Right, okay, so that means that we're going to have what's that, 5, 6, 7, 8 saves for the skeletons. Like I say, guys, really apology about slightly moving this and stuff. First time using like a big mat, and like I say, one hand it is a bit harder to try and keep steady. Right, okay, so Skeleton Warriors needing to get 5s here to try and save, and a couple of 6s, and that is about it. So we're going to take 6 casualties. So this is where things start going quite tricky for the skeletons. Now, we are going to take the casualties still, I think, from up here, just to tie the Chaos Warriors down a bit more in case they get the next turn. Okay, so we're going to be honest, take away the Hornblowers because we're not going to need them anymore. I mean, these guys aren't charging anywhere, so we're just going to move them there, and then we're going to, yeah, we're going to have to take these 2 as well. But we're still in range and controlling that objective. Okay, so with that, that is going to be the end of combat, and also that is going to be the end of the turn. So we are going to go into like battle shock, and as you can see, we have taken quite a few casualties for the skeletons. So I believe that is going to be 7 casualties. So there are bravery 10 and there are 10 left there, so that's actually going to make them bravery 11. So they lost 7, so if they get a 5 or 6, they lose 1 or 2. So let's see what they get for their battle shock test. They're absolutely fine, they got under that, so that's all good. They really need that luck. So now we are going to go into priority for turn 3. So for the Slaves of Darkness, who have had 2 turns and no victory points left, and let's see what they're going to get. So they get a 2, and ooh, it's going to be quite easy for the Death to win this. And they get a 6, so Death does win it. Death is going to keep it because they really are hanging on to a thread here, but they could still pull it out the bag because, so these Chaos Warriors, they have to pile into the closest Death model, which happens to be this chap over here. So they can't exactly just pile in over there as easily as you can think. They can start piling over here probably now, but that's not where that objective marker is. So it is tricky for Slaves of Darkness to really try and get to that objective now. Okay, so what we're going to do is go through the hero phase, which, you know, there's nothing to do for death here. And then there's nothing to do for moving, because there's no point really retreating. Because if let's say if I retreat out of combat here and just back up over here and make like a tactical withdrawal, then I'm just going to get slammed in the face with all those Chaos Warriors, and they're going to try and take that center point there for the objective. So we're going to keep things where they are, and no shooting, no charging obviously, so we're going to go straight into combat. So we are going to attack with 3, as we can see. Now they are actually all going to attack the Chaos Warriors, because maybe if they can kill one Chaos Warrior, that would really help them out. So let's see what they are going to get. So hitting on 4s, so that's good. Winning on 4s, so that is 2 as well. So they could kill a Chaos Warrior here. Let's see, they are re-rolling everything. Absolutely just passed that first time. So that is the Skeleton's turn to attack. Now the Chaos side for Slaves of Darkness have 2 things to attack with, so they're going to go with the let's go with the Chaos Sorcerer Lord first, and he's just going to pile in a little bit around here just to help the Chaos Warriors get that pile in maybe. So first attack for the Chaos Sorcerer Lord, so hitting on 4 for his staff, a wound on freeze, absolutely not, that's a typical wizard roll, and then he has actually got that sword, hasn't he? So hit on freeze, none for him either there. So we are then going to go with the Chaos Warriors. They're going to pile in, and then we'll resume. Okay, so we have 6 Chaos Warriors who are in combat range to attack the Skeleton Warriors. Now before I roll the dice, I just want to put to you the situation basically Death is in at the moment. So if Death can hold out this turn, and on their turn 3 score a victory point, that means that even if Chaos wipes them out, they could only score 3 victory points as well, because they only have 3 turns left, what would be a draw. Now if it's a draw, it goes down to kill points essentially, and obviously Slaves of Darkness are looking like they're going to kill a lot more points worth than the Death forces, but that would mean that the Slaves of Darkness get a minor victory rather than a major victory. So essentially the Skeleton Warriors here are playing for a minor loss. Now that might feel like well, that sounds like much of a good thing to try and play for. Now if you go to tournaments and stuff, getting a minor loss compared to a major loss is a huge difference in terms of like where you come on a tournament standing at the end of the day. So it really is going to make a difference here for the end result. Right, so with that out of the way, let us get on to the attacks for our Slaves to Darkness. So again, they are getting their re-rolls here. So they're hitting on 3s, re-rolling. So a few misses, more than they have done recently. So let us see, we've only got 1 fail then, and then all of these have hit. So I think the Skeletons are going to take a bit of a oh, we've got a 2 there by the looks of things, in case I may be just knocked out, but yeah, I don't think it matters too much. I think that was a 2. Right, okay, so again I'll pick that up, so let's all roll properly. And wounded on 3s, re-rolling the fails. So take that one there, and then that's going to be the death saves. Now for ease sake, I am just going to roll with these dice for death, because it just makes it a bit easier at the moment. And let's see what they are going to get. They are needing 5s for this. And then we had a 1 run off down here. What was the 2? So that means that that's going to be how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 casualties to death, which is, not gonna lie, it's gonna hurt them. It's gonna hurt them pretty bad, but there we are. So we're gonna take this one away. Take these 2. I mean, we were using this as a way to try and hold down the enemy, but there's nothing we can do right now. We have to we'll have to start taking these guys away. I know I sound a little bit biased towards I want Death to win, but this is Age of Nagash, and Death is the best. So that is the logic behind that one. Okay, so we only have 2 skeletons left, and we lost 8. So they're going to do a battleship test, and they want to get a 1 or 2 to get them 10 or under. So let's see what they're going to get. Now we are on to battleship because there's nothing less to fight with. So let's see what they're going to get. They get a 5, which is going to mean that these guys run away, which means that they do not claim this objective at the end of their turn 3, which means they only get 2 points, which means that Chaos Force, the Chaos Forces even, would move on to their objective, claim 3 opposed to the victory points of Death, which is 2. So Chaos would win this ultimately. And with that, that is going to be the end of this part 2 of How to Play Age of Sigmar. Now, a couple things I just want to say. Apologies if the quality is a little bit off. So what I've realised is I have to record and upload it from my phone, so I can't edit it on the computer. It's also very hot, so for the last hour or so, when I've been recording this, I can't have the fan on, so I'm absolutely boiling. So afraid in case any of that sort of came through a little bit. But I do hope you guys enjoyed it, and I do hope you have learned stuff from it. This may seem like a very slow, gradual like changes in what we do with the how to play. Like we're only adding in a couple of elements, like, you know, a couple of heroes and an objective. But that is literally what this is for the very brand new people who are really learning to play the game, especially like in the situation what we're in at the moment with the lockdown, where you can't practice yourself. So hopefully if you guys get a better understanding how the game works, so after the lockdown you feel a bit more confident in having a game, that would be absolutely great. Unfortunately, we didn't see how the endless spell works in this game because it didn't come off, but you know, like I say, you can never guarantee anything in Age of Sigmar. And with that, I just hope you enjoyed the game. I know like a lot of the combat ended up just around here, but I'm hoping you can see like the sort of tactics were involved in objective play by just stopping the enemy. It didn't matter how many casualties I took as long as I could get more points than them. But nevertheless, a death, a loss this one. But I'm happy with the risks I take and had good fun doing it. So guys, you got any questions at all regarding how to play Age of Sigmar, please ask me down below. I did want to get this video out to you guys a bit earlier, if I'm honest, probably about a week ago earlier. However, I have had a sore throat and I'm only starting to come over it now, so apologies. Like I said, my throat sounds a little bit croaky during this video, but I wanted to get this out to you guys straight away as soon as possible. So like I say, I hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any questions, please let me know down below. The next video, we are going to up the stakes a little bit and continue to add more. It'll be part 3. Now, that may be the last part of the How to Play series, but we'll see. I may do a part 4. We'll see how things go. But until then, guys, I want to say thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy it, please like, subscribe, and comment down below. So that's absolutely great, and it's absolutely free for you guys to do so. A lot of you liked my How to Play Age of Sigmar Part 1, which is absolutely great. When I see those likes, guys, it generally does really encourage me to continue with these series. Apologies if I'm mixing up my words stuff. The heat is just so fucking hot in this room. But I also want to say thank you to the patrons. Really do a great job supporting the channel. Really do help me make as many videos as possible. And until next time, guys, remember, wash your hands, social distance, stay safe. I'm kind of feeling like some governments around the world at the moment are sort of being too relaxed on the reopening the economy. So all I'm going to say is just take extra precautions. Despite when you see thousands of people on the beaches, you know, it's still not very safe. So be careful. You know, you don't want to get super ill by the time things go back to normal. It means you can't play games. But anyway, I'm rambling on now. So remember, guys, until next time, stay safe. And Nagash is all, and all is one in Nagash.